Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another video. Today we have so much exciting stuff to talk about, and the focus is Tales of the Jedi Season 2. Between a big mystery that the Ahsoka show never answered, and Obi-Wan Kenobi's tragic first love, to Aayla Secura turning to the dark side, we're going to be looking at some awesome suggestions for what the second season of the animated show might hold. This is a big one, I recommend you stay till the end. Enjoy today's video, and please subscribe if you've not done so. Here we go. What came as a surprise to many Star Wars fans during Ahsoka Season 1 is that it was established that at some stage between the end of the Battle of Lothal and the start of Ahsoka Season 1, Ahsoka had already trained Sabine a first time, taking her on as her apprentice. Things didn't work out the first time though, but now that they've overcome their emotional hurdles, as well as guilt and fear, Ahsoka is now going to have more success training Sabine, who is now able to use the Force, and probably with proficiency. Now that they're on Peridea, and Ahsoka said they are where they're supposed to be, I'm sure more training is going to ensue. But fans were baffled when they found out Ahsoka had already trained Sabine a first time, and we want to know more about this time period. And with Tales of the Jedi Season 2 set to release sometime in 2024, this would make for a wonderful animated short, the first time Ahsoka trained Sabine Wren in the 3D style of Tales of the Jedi Season 1, which is similar to the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch Seasons 1 and 2. They can fill in the gaps between Star Wars Rebels Season 4 and Ahsoka Season 1. I'm sure there is lots of story there that Dave Filoni wants to tell. Usually I would say the most likely way of doing this would be in a book or comics, but I believe this warrants an on-screen animated episode of Tales of the Jedi. Show us the Master and Apprentice struggle and tension, and maybe the day Sabine found out her family had died in the Night of 1,000 Tears. That was the moment, according to Hu Yang, that changed everything in their dynamic. Ahsoka didn't want to continue training Sabine because on top of stubbornness and the difficulties they already had, Ahsoka was afraid at what sort of anger and fear training her further could unlock. Ahsoka's fear of Sabine turning to the dark side. Sabine training as a Jedi has been something teased ever since the first trailers for the series, but Ahsoka episodes 1 and 2 and then 7 and 8 kind of teased the fractured relationship between Ahsoka and her apprentice. Ahsoka reveals that she walked away from Sabine's training, and she found herself becoming way too challenged by Sabine's stubbornness and vice versa. They both had a lot to overcome. Ahsoka's final lesson at the hands of Anakin in the World Between Worlds helped Ahsoka work through that guilt. With Ahsoka Season 1 taking viewers years away from the finale of Star Wars Rebels, the question of when exactly this training happened the first time between the two is left unanswered, something Hu Yang has teased over and over again, and something which I hope is not left up in the air. They could do flashbacks in Ahsoka Season 2, but animated would also be very appropriate. And this feeds into our next topic very well. Fans have been talking quite a lot about Tales of the Jedi and what they'd like to see in a second season. This all comes in the context of Baylan Skoll. Fans want to see more of his backstory, more of his time during the Clone Wars, way before he acquired Shin. Maybe the reveal of who his master was, and his relationship to Anakin Skywalker. Some fans have even taken it upon themselves to make mock-ups of the art style that Tales employs and put Baylan in that context. Also his fascination with the Ones. How much does he know about the prophecy of the Chosen One, and what is the nature of his business in Peridea? What does he mean when he says he is searching for the beginning? So what about other Jedi stories Tales of the Jedi Season 2 should explore? This has been making the rounds on social media as a question, and fans, as you would imagine, have all sorts of responses. At Star Wars Celebration, we did get some insight into what Season 2 may entail, but no specifics. I imagine the majority is still going to be based on the Clone Wars and prequel eras. Just as Season 1 gave us more Ahsoka, more Count Dooku and young Qui-Gon Jinn, I'm sure Season 2 is going to employ a very similar model. If Tales of the Jedi ends up being a 6 or 7 season show, then you'd imagine at some stage they're going to go beyond this periphery and look at Force users from the High Republic, the Old Republic, and maybe far into the future well beyond Rey's Jedi Academy. But for now, I think it's going to be within the confines of episodes 1, 2 and 3. So who can be explored? Well, I was thinking about Jedi who we know a little bit about, who we know about through books and comics, and maybe even explored a little bit in the Clone Wars series, but do deserve a lot more screen time than they've had. And the first duo that came to mind are Quinlan Vos and Aayla Secura, his apprentice. It's not the first time I've floated around this idea, but there is one specific aspect of her past which doesn't seem to be addressed in any on-screen material, one which defines a different aspect to her personality than what we see in the Clone Wars and the prequel trilogy, because in case you don't know, in canon and in Legends, she almost turned to the dark side. That's right, when her uncle was killed, she went on a revenge mission, and she had a brush with the dark side, and its temptations allured her to fully becoming a Sith. Thanks to the wisdom of her master as well as Grandmaster Yoda, she resisted. But with a Dave Filoni twist, maybe adding more to the canon as he tends to do, a story of Aayla Secura's brush with the dark side could be fascinating. And as to her master Quinlan Vos, his story has been implied to go well beyond Order 66. While his Padawan Aayla Secura died during Order 66 on Felucia, Quinlan survived, and by 9 BBY, Vos was part of the guerrilla movement, the Underground Path, which smuggled surviving Jedi across the galaxy and gave them new identities. Much later in the timeline between 28 ABY and 34 ABY, Luke Skywalker noted in the Secrets of the Jedi book that Vos was one of the Jedi rumoured to have survived the Purge and well beyond, so his survival is well established, and we don't know how much longer he lived, but it sounds as though it could have been a while. So moving on, if they're going to explore multiple time periods, what about Luke Skywalker's academy? What about the first time he trains Ben Solo? Some stories that connect to the Mandoverse and later the sequel trilogy, exploring Luke Skywalker's academy at its peak. Another story I would love to see elaborated on is missions with Jaro Tapal and his apprentice Cal Kestis. We see this in flashbacks in Jedi Fallen Order, and as we approach the third and final Jedi game, I think it's time to start integrating Cal Kestis into some of the shows, be they animation or eventually live action, but the 3D animated format could work best at first, exploring earlier periods of his life. Cal Kestis did meet Anakin Skywalker in the book Brotherhood, and Tapal spoke to him as well. During the final years of the Galactic Republic and the last year of the Clone Wars, Tapal commanded the 13th Battalion. Both Tapal and Kestis attended Anakin Skywalker's knighting ceremony, as he went from Padawan to Jedi Knight. Around this time, Tapal befriended Sera Junda, another character we meet in the Jedi series of games. Tapal and Kestis had a very interesting dynamic as Master and Apprentice. It wasn't always easy for Kestis when he first started. In the aftermath of the Brakra invasion, as they set out on the Albedo Brave to Megiddo to assist Ki-Adi-Mundi, Order 66 was communicated to the clone troopers of his battalion. Jaro Tapal sacrificed his life to save his apprentice, and Cal Kestis got away and survived. But I would love to see more stories with these two, to learn more about Cal Kestis' training and personality. Another Tales of the Jedi Season 2 idea would be Siri Tachi and Adi Gallia. This is a very niche one, which I honestly can't imagine them doing, but if they did, it would be fascinating, and I'll tell you why. Adi Gallia met a horrifying end in the Clone Wars at the hands of Savage Opress. But did you know in both canon and legends, she had an apprentice called Siri Tachi, and in both canon continuity and Star Wars Legends, the expanded universe, she and Obi-Wan Kenobi had a crush on one another in their youth. Years before he met Satine Kryze, they would hold hands in the cafeteria, but it was only when Obi-Wan realised he was growing attached that he decided to distance himself from her. That would be another really awesome short, because we've never seen Adi Gallia's apprentice in any canon on-screen material, but she does appear in canon books, such as Brotherhood by Mike Chen. There are lots of great ideas out there for Tales of the Jedi Season 2, and I want to hear yours in the comments down below. What characters do you want to see explored? This is a confirmed show, hopefully releases next year. If you enjoyed my suggestions and you enjoyed today's video, then please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you, always.